Okay, in this video, I want to break down this idea around value add versus non-value added. I'll have a link here to the full video where I break down and show all the different types of waste in this process for making Papa John's pizza. But I want to specifically look at the sauce process because I think it's a good example of how to really separate out this at the very granular process level. So at 1 minute and 21 seconds, we are looking at him finishing up putting the dough onto the rack, and he's going to be moving over to the sauce process.
Once it's fitted to the screen,
It takes him about maybe 2 seconds. So maybe we'll say 123 is where he started to move towards this process. And then at 125, he stops. And so there's 2 seconds of transportation. He could have probably slid the pizza down and maybe saved a second or so. Now let's look at the process. He's now reaching for the ladle. That's called motion.
you want to get about
And if you caught that, he switched hands. He went from his left hand to his right hand. It didn't take that long, but again, these little tiny fractions of movement add up when you're doing hundreds or even maybe thousands of pizzas a day. So he switched over hands and used his other hand, and he still has not created value at this point. From a customer standpoint, value is when we're able to get the pizza sauce onto the dough. We also want it spread out, and we don't want too much or too little of the sauce. And we want high quality tasting sauce. So in the video, we can't tell if it's high quality. Maybe it's been sitting there a while. We have to question that a little bit. He's using the ladle, so that gives us good confidence that he's providing the right amount of sauce. So now we're going to really evaluate what is the time spent putting the sauce onto the pizza and spreading it out.
a cup of sauce.
So at 127, so let's say this process started at 123. So it's now 127. He hasn't added any value yet. It's only when the sauce is touching the dough where it starts to create value. Here he talks for about 2 seconds, and so I'm not going to count that against him because he wouldn't probably normally do that.
So it goes on a large dough.
So about 2 seconds of talking, then he still motion is occurring by bringing it close to the pizza. And right there at the end of 129, he is now adding value. So 123 to 129, 6 seconds. Let's take out 2 seconds for him talking. So there's 4 seconds of non-value added so far and 0 seconds of value add. Now let's see how long it takes him to dispense the sauce. About 2 seconds to dispense the sauce out of the ladle and onto the dough. That's adding value. That's what we want as a customer. We want that sauce on there. He then switches hands again. If you see that, let's go back a second. Watch him switch hands. Right hand,
Put it in.
switches to left hand. There's non-value added activity. And then we want to see him spread out the sauce. So as he's spreading out the sauce, I want you to see when would you be content or happy as a customer that the sauce is spread out adequately.
In the middle, slowly sauce it. What you want to do?
I personally would be happy with it right there at 137. Let's see how long he goes further spreading it out.
Make sure your sauce is evenly distributed on the pizza. And once it is, make sure it's everywhere.
So about 144, we see that he's done spreading it out, and then he takes another half second or so to put the ladle back. Putting the ladle back is non-value added, and that would be motion, waste. The spreading it out was value added from, where did we say, 133? Yeah, about 133 he starts to spread it out. I think he was done about 137. Right about there. He was pretty well spread out. So let's give him 4 seconds of value add right there, plus the 2 seconds of dispensing out the sauce. So we've got 6 seconds of value occurred so far. When you go beyond this point, so from 137 to 145 or 144, that's when he actually stops spreading out the sauce. So there's 7 seconds of waste. Okay, now he's transporting it. Since we started with the movement transportation on the earlier step, we'll stop it at this point. And let's say it's 146. So we started this process at 123. He had 4 seconds of transportation and motion. We took out 2 seconds of talking, which is a normal part of the process. We gave him 2 seconds of value add for dispensing or putting the sauce on the dough, but not the motion of bringing the ladle to and from the dough. We also gave him about 4 seconds to spread out the sauce. We'll give that value added, but everything past the 4 seconds, the extra 8 seconds, 7 or 8 seconds he did, we're going to call that extra processing or over processing, which means you're going above and beyond what is needed. Customer's happy at the 4 second point. We don't need to go out a lot further than that. Okay, so that's an example how we can take a process and break it down. So let's look at what is the total percentage of value add. So we said from 123 to 146 is this whole process, and we'll take out 2 seconds there. So that's about 21 seconds. We gave him 2 seconds of value add for the sauce getting on the dough, and then 4 seconds of spreading it out. So that's 6 seconds out of 21 seconds. When you do the math on that, that's roughly 30% value add. Not very good. That means 60 to 70 some percent is non-value added. And when we look at the description of a process, some people say it's 80 to 90% non-value added. So we're actually not that far off on this one little process. So initially when you're watching this, you might not have noticed all that waste in the sauce process. So I highly recommend you videotape a process and then go back and sit down and look it over. And then do what I did and break it down into seconds and try to separate out, is that really adding value or not? I'd also encourage you to take and involve the workers in that process so they can start to see it themselves. A lot of times we don't even know what we're doing. And if we saw a video of how we did our process, we would see some waste as well. So again, the idea is to try to teach people to see the waste. Hopefully that helps you understand how to break this down and look for opportunities. If you need help with this, let me know. If you got some video you want to share with me, I'll be happy to look at it and give you ideas on where I see the waste in the process. So I hope that was helpful for you. Again, check out the link to the full video where I can explain all the different types of waste in that process.